Hey Carly, it's really great to see you. You know, I missed you last week.
Yeah, some stuff. I had stuff going on at home.
What kind of stuff?
Well, my daughter was at her father's house, so I was bored.
Sounds like you were kind of lonely too.
Yeah, I was lonely.
Yeah, I know how hard that can be for you. You know, you and him just split up recently, and I know how hard it can get and how lonely you can be.
I was really lonely, so I decided to go to the bar. And I drank, even though I didn't want to. And I met this really great guy who has a family, but still he came home with me. We slept together. Then he left right after to go to his family.
That must have been rough as well.
It was. Because,
You know, you kind of trust him for those few minutes, and then he ends up leaving you and abandoning you, and you kind of feel that flood of loneliness over again. That must have been very difficult.
Yeah, it was those same emotions coming back. So, back to why I wasn't here. I took sleeping pills just to go to sleep for a good amount of time without having to think about this. And when I woke up, I missed our appointment.
Right, I understand. You know, taking sleeping pills is kind of a quick fix for you to kind of just fall back asleep and kind of not worry about all those issues that you're feeling, all those feelings. So, you know, I understand where you're coming from. You know, I actually was thinking about doing, it's called a chain analysis worksheet, and it's kind of just going over some of the behaviors and events that have happened, specifically why you missed last session, and just kind of going through it with me and just really kind of recognizing everything that happened. So do you think you're up for it?
We could try it.
Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is more of a target behavior. So I think in this case we're kind of working on making sure that you are able to follow through with your commitment and make sure that you come to all of the sessions, unless a real emergency comes up, of course. So let's talk about things in your environment that kind of made you a little bit vulnerable last night or before the last session that evening.
Well, I was alone. I didn't have my daughter. And then when I went to the bar, I didn't want to drink. I didn't think I was gonna drink. But then I have all these drinks around me, and this guy buying me drinks.
So it's difficult to kind of go in with the intention of not drinking, and then being in that environment really prompted you to kind of really want a drink after all.
Yeah.
And what about your diet? I know that we've been working a little bit about making sure you eat enough each day. What did you eat in that day?
I had an apple.
Okay, so you were on an empty stomach in a bar and drinking. How many drinks did you say you had?
I had about 5. So, yeah.
So you must have gotten pretty drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, all these things really contributed to that vulnerability that made you kind of want to go out that night. So if you want to just jot those down that you just said to me. So you were feeling lonely and you had an empty stomach. Okay. And so let's talk about the event that kind of brought this all on. So you mentioned that you were sitting at home and you were thinking about your daughter, and she was at her father's house.
Yeah.
So that must, as we discussed, you really felt lonely, and what other emotions were you feeling?
I just had nothing to do, so just like sitting there, feeling empty in a way. Just I needed to find something to fill that. So I went to a bar where I knew there was going to be people and loud noises.
Right, that makes sense. You know, if you're feeling lonely, why wouldn't you go to a place that is surrounded by people? Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so if you want to just write that down. And let's discuss also kind of the consequences brought on because of the events that occurred. So you said that you hadn't really eaten that day. So you were So how did you feel once you had those 5 drinks?
A lot more drunk than I would have if I ate.
Mm-hmm.
So
consequence was sort of just feeling a little tipsy, not really being in your mindset, the right mindset that you normally are.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the stuff we've been working on. I was drunk. There was this guy looking at me and hitting on me,
And how did you feel when he left that night?
Awful.
Right. So that was, another hard thing to deal with, and leaving. So if you want to just write those things down. And again, I just want to kind of walk through all the events and behaviors. So the first thing you were doing, you said you were sitting at home.
Yeah.
And what were you doing? Were you watching TV? Were you sitting alone in your living room? Like, paint me a picture.
Well, there was nothing on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had the news on in the background, but I was really just staring out the window, thinking.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you had a lot of cognitions, a lot of thoughts going through your head. Mostly you're sitting there by yourself and you were thinking about how your daughter, who's usually around, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you write that down first? So you were thinking about how lonely you were, and so what kind of feelings, what kind of emotions ran through you?
I was just with the loneliness came just all these negative thoughts that I don't need to. I know I don't deserve this, but it's hard. It's really hard.
Mm-hmm. You sound upset right now as well.
Yeah, it's
just rethinking this and kind of reliving it right now.
A little depressing.
Mm-hmm. Well, if at any moment, it gets too difficult, you could take a breath.
I'm okay.
Okay. So you were, all these thoughts and emotions were going through your body. So then you went up and you went to the bar?
Yeah, and I was just trying to sit, and then when this guy came up to me, he started giving me compliments, and
that must have been nice.
Yeah, it was filling what wasn't there.
Right. And I know how much, this separation with your husband has been so difficult, and just hearing a guy compliment you for a little while, it must have been just really nice and rewarding, and
yeah,
so I get it, yeah. Mm-hmm. So when he was giving you compliments, what kind of emotions did you feel?
I was happy.
Mm-hmm.
Here I was alone at home for the whole day with all these thoughts in my head racing, and I get to this bar and this guy notices me and he's giving me compliments. It made me feel really good. I was happy for a small amount of time.
Okay. All right, why don't you write that down as well? Okay, so let's talk about ways to kind of reduce this vulnerable feeling in the future.
I don't know. I guess I didn't have to go to the bar. I could have gone to the mall or bowling or anywhere.
Great. That's a great idea. Yeah, just doing some kind of other activity where you aren't kind of putting yourself in this position where, in that case, you said you didn't want to drink and you went to a bar. So it's difficult to be put in that situation and not drink. So putting yourself in a situation where, you're at the mall or movies is a great idea. And you said that you didn't really eat a lot. So if you know that you are going to be drinking, maybe what's something that could be better for you?
I could eat a meal. I don't have to just eat an apple.
so let's just talk about ways to prevent this event in the future.
Well,
because your daughter is going to be at her father's quite a bit, so you know what? Let's brainstorm on something that could have happened that gone differently when you were feeling lonely.
I could have called my sister. She's around all the time. Maybe done something with her. Just talked to her on the phone.
Great, that's a great idea. It's definitely something to keep in mind. And alternative behaviors. What's like an alternative behavior that you could have done in that situation? So, you know, you hadn't drank, you hadn't eaten all day, and you were at a bar. Like, what's something that?
Well, I could have had something to eat. I could have even got nachos at the bar. There was nachos.
Great. And even just using some of our skills that we've been working on, the mindfulness when you're sitting at home and feeling lonely, and just feeling what's around you, taking deep breaths, concentrating on your breath, and not focusing on your daughter not being there. Great. Well, I hope that this was helpful, and you know, next week I'd really like you to just kind of monitor your feelings, and you know, if your daughter's out one night, just doing something that we discussed and you have it written down, so you can, you know, call your sister or do some mindfulness activities.